Hello people of the internet, this is Shaky Jake, and I really need a catchphrase. You're watching Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic on Impossible Difficulty, where previously on KotOR we explored the underwater Republic base where the Selkath had gone insane. We found the star map on Manaan, finally, and we also met a whole bunch of other Republic soldiers and crew who had either gone insane or were in the process of going insane, and also finally met Darth Bandon, who is Darth Malik's apprentice, or was Darth Malik's apprentice, because we killed him, and he only appears 3 times in the game, so he's a bit of a random character, to be honest, but either way he's dead, which is good. So I know last time I said I was going to leave Manaan to carry on with the main quest, but there are a couple of things I need to do. So one of them is trigger Bastila and Jolie's conversation, because I haven't done that yet, and as far as I'm aware, that's the last party member based banter conversation thing that I need to trigger. And whilst we're hoping to trigger that, I've got a side quest to turn in because I forgot to do that at the relevant location, and it was this one up here, which was the Republic hiring mercenaries quest, which is where Nilko's asked us to find out why they've been hiring so many people, or so many mercenaries. So let's go and find him and turn that in so he can get a nice reward, hopefully. And I just want to get this cleared up before I move on with the main quest, simply so I don't have to think about it again, or potentially lose the opportunity to, you know, not trigger certain things. Okay, good, the party members are following me. I've had a bit of a glitch lately where one of the party members lags behind and then takes forever to get to where, you know, I need to be. And I'll tell you a little story, actually, whilst I'm here, assuming Bastila and Jolie don't interrupt me. I had to replay this game again. And, yeah, someone's lagging behind.
I'm here.
Bastila.
Sure.
God damn it. Okay, let's try this again. So, I had to replay a segment of this game again, simply because the way this game works with regards to talking to party members is every time you level up, you get to unlock the next part of their, you know, discussions. And because I'd leveled up so many times, I wasn't able to actually trigger Juhani's quest line, or I was very unlikely to trigger all of Juhani's conversations. So I had to replay bits of the game and get to, get several save points where I could trigger all of her conversations for this, and then, you know, resume her side quest at the most convenient opportunity. So Nilko. Yes, they're sending them down to a secret base on the Harkon Rift. Oh, a Selkath who actually has common sense. Good.
You think the Republic is trying to steal the KotOR, perhaps? An odd thing for the Republic to do, no?
They couldn't. They had lost contact with the science facility. They awoke a creature which fed on the KotOR. The creature is alive. I don't know why I'd lie and say it's died, but yeah, the creature is alive. Okay, so we got 500 credits for that, which is awesome. We met a Selkath who isn't a total dick for once, which is good. There is one other person I probably should talk to, and that is Shayless over here. Oh, Sasha's a girl. Okay, I must have missed that last time. I have information for you, Shayless. The Sith are training the Selkath youth in the ways of the Dark Jedi. I'm sure in the amount of time I've been recording this, somebody would have told you, but apparently not. I've convinced your daughter to turn her back on the Sith ways. I hope so. Do I take his credits or not? I get light side points if I don't. No, I'm going to take them. Thank you, Shayless. And we got 500 credits there, which is good. Yeah, I've still got this cold a tad. It's really annoying, actually, because it's the longest I've had this cold. I've talked about it before on some previous recordings, but the fact I've still got it, you know, even now is irritating. So I will have to, you know, edit as best I can to prevent the coughs from being too frequent. But if you hear my voice go a little bit weird at times, it's because of the cold. Now, I'm just hoping Bastila and Jolie's conversation is going to trigger. Let's just see if there's anything else in my, you know, journal that I need to do. I don't think there is particularly. I mean, we've got the Ghetto Howard and stuff still to do, but we will do that at a later date. Yes, we need to go back up this way. And you'll notice as well that there's a couple of discrepancies between this save file and my other one. So, you know, I've got different force powers. I'm at level 15 still, whereas the last time I recorded this I was level 16. There's a genuine reason for that, and I will show you why I've withheld levels at certain points. Again, it's because of the way the party members' discussions work, where if you don't level up, you can't talk to them about certain things. But the moment you level up, it unlocks the next part of their conversation. The downside to this is, if you know, level up so many times in a row, it still only triggers one discussion if you haven't actually talked to them about it. I don't know, it's a little bit random. I'm not quite sure how BioWare worked it out, but who knows. So I need to try and trigger this conversation as best I can. I'm hoping it will happen soon, because I would like to actually, you know, leave Manaan at some point, or at least go in the Ebon Hawk ready to leave Manaan. So I had to replay several hours of this game in order to get all of Juhani's discussions ready and to get her prepped up for her side quest, which is really annoying, but at the same time it means that my save file isn't on like 25 hours worth of playtime. It's now on about 18, and that's all thanks to skipping dialogue. Now, come on guys, why aren't you talking? Again, the triggers for party member conversations are incredibly random. I've had it trigger almost instantaneously in some points, then other times it just takes forever to trigger. So I'm going to try and, you know, walk around and hope it plays at some point. If I don't use force speed, it might be more likely to actually, you know, trigger. One other thing that did happen whilst I was replaying bits of the game to get the star maps and so on and so forth, because this took several hours even with skipping dialogue. One of the things that was quite interesting was when I replayed the Pazak tournament, which, you know, has already taken away 10 years of my life because of that. I got more credits the second time around. I actually ended up with 69,000, which meant I was loaded. And because of that, I can pretty much afford everything I wanted. So I've actually got more gear than I did on the other save. I'm not quite sure what affects the Pazak winnings, but my assumption is that it's, you know, it's fairly random. But again, 69,000 credits, you can't say no to. When in the other save I had about 39,000. Now come on, Bastila and Jolie, why aren't you talking? In my other save, this triggered almost instantly.
Jolie, may I have a moment? There's something I wish to speak to you about.
Yep, I figured it was only a matter of time until we had the whole come back to the order discussion. Well, I guess there's no avoiding it now, so let's get it over with.
I know you have issues with the Order, but you are a Jedi, Jolie. You command the Force. Without the guidance of the Council, how can you avoid falling to the dark side?
Well, I've managed to avoid it the last 20 years or so. Besides, light side, dark side, they don't mean the same to me as they do to you. I don't see in absolutes.
Ooh, a reverse Obi-Wan Kenobi, I like that. Let's see then. Of course, Malak isn't evil, he's just misunderstood.
I want to stop Malak as much as anyone. But I don't have to join the Order to do it. Look at Karth, or Canderous. They're with us in this quest, but they aren't Jedi. The capacity for good or evil, like the Force itself, is in all living creatures. And belonging to the Jedi Order, or the Sith, or any group, won't change what you are at your core.
I see you are quite adamant. No doubt you've had ample time to think on this during your long seclusion. I guess it was foolish of me to think I could sway your position so easily.
Yeah, I'm old and stubborn. But I appreciate the effort. But from now on, you can just think of me as any other non-Jedi in our little group. With a lightsaber. And Force powers.
And it took me years to realise how interesting that discussion actually is, because Bastila has that much of an ego that she thinks she can change an old man's mind. You know, someone who has way more life experience than her and way more experience being a Jedi than her. It's actually quite interesting from a psychological perspective. So I'm going to return to the Ebon Hawk. Right, I'm back at the Ebon Hawk, and the plan now is I'm going to go through all of the Juhani conversations from different saves so I can show you how it actually progresses, and then I'll show you anything to do with Jolee if he has anything else to say. I will see you in a moment. Right, we're back on the Ebon Hawk, and we're going to talk to Juhani because she has a surprising amount of conversations for a character that could, in theory, be killed off instead of joining you in the party. So, let's see what you have to say.
I feel I must apologize for the way I acted towards you before, in the Grove. It was wrong of me.
You thought the dark side had consumed you. It is nothing.
I am sorry for attacking you. I am sorry for thinking you would only try to kill me. I hope that by helping you in your task, I may redeem myself in your eyes, and in my own.
Do not worry, Juhani. I forgive you.
Thank you. It is most reassuring to know that you can forgive me, even though I tried to take your life. I can only hope that, in our time journeying together, I will succeed. How may I be of assistance to you, Padawan?
I was wondering if we could talk.
What is it you would like to speak to me about?
How did you come to be a Jedi?
How I came to be a Jedi? I am sure you would not find it very interesting. Are you sure you would like to hear?
If you tell her that you don't want to hear the story or that you think it's going to be boring, she'll just react really negatively to you. And if this was Knights of the Old Republic 2, you'd probably take a massive influence loss. And this is one of the problems I have with Juhani. When I was a kid, I used to think she was a pretty cool character, but the older I've got, the more I've realised she's actually really annoying and insecure and basically relies only on you. She doesn't really talk to anyone else in the party, just you. And that gets really old after a while. But anyway, yes, please continue.
Well, it goes back a number of years. Back on my homeworld, we did not see Jedi very often, especially where I lived.
Where did you live?
The hind end of space. A pit of a world, to be sure, where Jedi rarely tread. But we had heard of them. Well, everyone had, so that is not to be unexpected. Champions of truth, defenders of justice, heroes of the Republic. It was very easy for a child to be enthralled by their image, their mystique. Maybe I was one of those children.
Did you meet a Jedi?
Yes. Yes, I did. When I saw a Jedi for the first time, they lived up to everything my imagination had created them to be. I was awed, and maybe a little enamored.
The imagination can be a dangerous thing.
From that moment on, I knew that I would have to try to become a Jedi. To lift myself out of the rut I had been living in for years, and to make a real difference, as the Jedi were. The foolish delusions of a child. But this child made it happen. As soon as I was able, I left my world and went in search of them. I found them and was accepted. I had been living my dream on Dantooine for several years before you came, although perhaps I was not entirely ready for it, or not completely suited to the task. Otherwise I would not have fallen. But thanks to you, I have been redeemed. Perhaps I may yet live to see that dream of mine come true. Come, there is much we should do. Let us not waste time talking. Action is what is needed.
Which is funny considering I've normally left Juhani on the Ebon Hawk for most of the playthrough.
How may I be of assistance to you, Padawan?
I was wondering if we could talk.
What is it you would like to speak to me about?
Are you doing alright?
I thank you for your concern, but I am still a bit shaken.
Perhaps you just need more time.
More time would do me good. Time to distance myself from that anger. I think that is why the Council agreed to send me with you. They think, perhaps, that in your company, I will be able to free myself from it.
If I see you begin to slip back, I will intervene, because if I say anything even remotely constructive, you're going to take it negatively.
I thank you for your concern and your acceptance. I will strive to prove that I am worthy of your company and trust. How may I be of assistance to you, Padawan?
I was wondering if we could talk.
What is it you would like to speak to me about?
This is why Juhani gets a bit tedious after a while. Now, this particular line of dialogue, I can't remember if this was in the vanilla game or not, or if it's a restoration thing. I can't recall it being in the original game, but I could be wrong. Why are you so hostile towards Canderous?
I am wary of the Mandalorian. I do not trust him.
He has proven himself well.
I have never trusted Mandalorians. They drove my parents from KotOR, aided the Sith, and attacked the Republic. Their warped notions of honor may provoke them to do even more heinous acts. I do not know why you tolerate his presence on your ship. In truth, he has had some merit so far, but I am not certain it is worth the risk you take.
You should not judge Canderous by other Mandalorians.
His kind may prove to be a danger to the galaxy again, but this man himself has proven acceptable so far. Merely keep your distance from him and watch him, so that he does not betray us.
Which is funny, because Canderous is arguably the party member who is least likely to betray us at any point. And Canderous is awesome, and between the two characters, I'd rather trust Canderous than Juhani. At least Canderous doesn't completely flip out if I give him constructive criticism like Juhani often does. Which I haven't really shown, because I don't really want to show that, but that's how she'll respond if you do criticise her, even remotely. Have you spoken to him?
Spoken to him? No, I could not. Mandalorians are vicious of temper and easily provoked. I would not want to tempt his wrath.
Which is funny considering Juhani is the most triggered party member in the entire game. And Canderous actually controls his temper a lot better than Juhani does. So maybe she's projecting her own feelings onto Canderous, I don't know. Or her own internal feelings of how her behaviour, what her behaviour's like. A wise decision. We do not need internal conflict.
I am sorry. It is just that I cannot stand to be around him for very long. I suppose I do not really dislike him. It is just... The Mandalorians came and overran my world. They slaughtered my race. I cannot forget what they have done, or forgive.
I think you will come to trust him in time, because I'm going to force you into a party at some point now.
Maybe. Maybe not. I cannot forgive them for what they have done to me and my people. In time, Canderous may prove himself, but it will not be easy. This simmering anger and hatred for the Mandalores seems to have found a place in my heart, though. Sometimes I worry.
You should not worry. You can overcome your anger.
But still, it eats away at me. I worry that I may yet again fall and endanger everything I hold dear, if that time does come. And if I do threaten our task, it is only right that you should strike me down. If I fall and endanger you and the galaxy, you must do what is right. If my death will defeat Malak, then that is what must be done. But we are becoming too morbid, too soon. We should not talk like this now.
It's you who's becoming too morbid. Don't start making me out to be morbid. Okay, the next lot of conversations, which I'm going to use to prove a point. So, let's have a look.
How may I be of assistance to you, Padawan?
I was wondering if we could talk.
What is it you would like to speak to me about?
What are you thinking about?
I have been thinking much about our journey, and I am grateful and honored that you have accepted me with you. I am not used to such unbiased acceptance from one who is nearly a stranger to me. We KotOR do not make friends easily, or for long. Even on Dantooine I remained alone. Not ostracized exactly, but separate.
I thought you had a friend on Dantooine. I thought Belaya was your friend from, what has been hinted that the two characters had a relationship, but again, I can't remember if that was actually confirmed or not, or if that was a fanish thing. I can't remember. And tell me about your people.
In truth, I have lived in the Republic too long, and I know little. I never met any others of my race other than my parents. But we are not diplomats. We do not deal well with groups. This situation is new to me. It is warming. I feel almost welcome. Needed. You seem to be very decisive when it is required of you. It is reassuring to know that I can count on someone like you.
It's only nice because I haven't found out how to ditch you yet. Yeah, don't say that. Let's try being a little bit constructive here. You could try counting on one of the others,
I feel that I could count on any of you. But you are the one who drew me back from the dark side. It is to you that I feel a debt, and I shall make it up to you.
Oh, okay, she didn't respond too badly there, that's fair enough. Now I'm going to show you something here and see if it works. So if I talk to her again...
How may I be of assistance to you, Padawan?
I was wondering if we could talk.
What is it you would like to speak to me about?
Absolutely nothing!
Of course. If there is anything else, I am here to help.
Right, so... I'm going to do a quick auto level up, don't worry about this. So, once you level up and talk to her again...
How may I be of assistance to you, Padawan?
I was wondering if we could talk.
What is it you would like to speak to me about?
And here we've got yet another new conversation unlocked. And again, it's only unlocked because of leveling up. But if you were to spam so many level ups and then talk to her, you still wouldn't unlock the others. Again, the game's coding is a little bit strange when it comes to party member conversations, particularly with Juhani. So tell me more about your past.
Well, I suppose I have not talked very much about the Jedi I met back home. They, all of them, were so very invigorating.
Invigorating?
They were so very alive. So full of hope and energy and zeal. In retrospect, I can see it was a little bit tragic.
What do you mean?
Those Jedi were going to fight the Mandalorians just after they had invaded. Many of those Jedi perished in the fighting. But to us, they seemed invincible. Especially their leader, who they talked about all the time. Paragons of light and justice, sweeping away all iniquity before them. It was like looking at gods.
Damn straight I do look divine. No, let's be serious about this. If that was the case, they seem to be misrepresenting themselves.
I was merely using poetic license. Those Jedi, they were enthralling. Everyone wanted just to touch them. Some people...
That's called invading personal space,
Not that
Juhani.
the peace they brought lasted very long.
What happened?
The Jedi left. The people grew complacent. Those who had been wronged saw their chance at revenge. And so the cycle continues. The oppressed become the new generation of oppressors. The human oppressed, that is. The non-humans were never treated well in any case. We felt the brunt of both administrations.
All species are capable of intolerance.
Yes. But humans seem the most pervasive, the most consistent. They took their frustrations and hates out on us because the people they wanted had already fled or were too well protected. But no one looks out for the injustices we suffered. Oh no, but I am sorry. I should not have outbursts like that.
I'm sorry, but that was not an outburst. That was actually quite, polite. An outburst would be, proper rage. Oh, Juhani has some weird logic sometimes. As long as you do not let your anger influence you.
Don't you see? The very fact I mentioned it means it has its influence. Anger can lead to the dark side, and I must be ever careful that I do not fall back into those ways. I thank you for your support. My outburst was uncalled for, but you did not lash back at me. You are a much better Jedi than I, it would seem. But let us not speak more of this now. We should continue on our journey. Perhaps later we will talk again.
You can't really overly criticise her because she'll just flip. You can't suggest anything that implies that you're bored or that you think that she needs to grow a pair or anything like that, because again, she'll flip. And the character itself reminds me a little bit of a recovering addict. As in, she thinks she's going to fall to the dark side every other conversation you have with her, but she never does actually fall to the dark side again in the entire game. Not once. There's a time when she comes close to it, but that only happens if you decide to be a dick about it and influence her to react on her worst impulses. But otherwise, she's pretty much fine. She's actually quite light-sided, to be honest. And again, you look at her actual alignment on the party member menu, and she's pretty light-sided, which doesn't make sense considering that she's only recently recovered from the dark side. Trying to remember which save to load is actually a real pain.
Yes. What is it?
Is something wrong?
I have been bothered by something of late.
Don't lay all your problems on me. Again, if you say that, she will flip, from what I remember. And again, it's true though, because Juhani only ever talks to you. She never talks to anyone else in the party particularly, which is why I think BioWare did that deliberately, because she's a determined character. She can either be kept alive and she joins the party, or you can kill her and she, you never hear from her again because she's dead. And let's be a little bit realistic with this. You sure someone else can't help you?
Someone else is not responsible for wiping out my homeworld by their actions. But who cares if it is because of you that everyone I have ever known of Dantooine is dead?
Okay, so what are you saying?
Taris. It was Taris that the Sith destroyed to try to kill you and your precious Bastilla. Taris, my homeworld.
I'm sorry, Juhani. I did not know.
If it were not for you and Bastilla, the Sith would have never had reason to destroy that world. It was your fault for being there, and your fault for rescuing Bastilla. Without your intervention, the Sith would have had no cause to lay waste to my childhood.
So why don't you just blame Malak? Because he's the one who ultimately made the call to destroy Taris. But anyway,
Just let me vent my anger. I need someone to blame. Something. Anything. I hated that world. Yet everything I learned as a child, I learned there. It is as much a part of me as the air I breathe. I have this ache inside me, where all my childhood memories lay, and I find your face there with them. If it was not for you, that world would still exist.
I am sorry, Juhani. There was no way to prevent it.
I know. I suppose I realized that. But it is so hard to lose your entire past. You would not understand.
Odd line, but okay. It will be alright, Juhani.
Yes. Yes, I suppose it will. As long as we remain focused on our task, it will. I am sorry. I will try not to distract you in the future with my trivial experiences. We should stop for now.
I don't really think that was trivial. I think that's actually a genuinely, realistic response to having your home world destroyed by somebody you travel with. I don't think that's trivial. I just think it's a bit interesting how she blamed me and Bastila for it. Or, she blamed Red and Bastila for it as opposed to the Sith.
Yes. What is it?
Is something wrong?
I was remembering Taris.
I am sorry, Juhani.
No, it's all right. I think I am over the worst of it. I apologize again for lashing out at you. It was not your fault. It was a horrible place to have to live. At least in the lower cities where the non-humans tended to get relegated. Living for years in a place with no sun, living off the trash dropped from the upper levels. and a meager pay doing back-breaking labor.
I do not remember seeing any of your race on Taris.
There were none. Bad enough to be a race that is feared and hated by humans, but to be one that is strange and different, even among non-humans. But living was hard enough, without the stigma of being from a lost race. There was always the danger of Rakuls coming up from the sewers, or more mundane predators living and working in the area. My family and I struggled each and every day to make something of our lives. But we could only go so far. Taxes from the corrupt government, more fees from the gangs controlling the streets, and whatever was left paying for what food and medical supplies we could afford.
Was it that bad?
With no money to spare for any amenities, even the enclave on Dantooine seems a paradise in comparison. And of course, there was the constant bigotry and hate from the more affluent and human citizens, lording their wealth over us living below. Every once in a while, a rich human would come down through the lower levels with his droid entourage just to see how the wildlife lived, and laughed at the mockeries that were our successes. But I have come to meet many decent humans in my travels since those days. Indeed, some of the greatest people I have ever met are human.
Like who?
The Jedi who encouraged me to join the Order. The one who was with the group going to fight the Mandalorians. She was human. I am sorry. I am getting away from my point. If there even was one. Sometimes I curse the day my parents fled to Taris. But then again, if they had not, I would not be where I am today.
Your parents?
Another story for another time. For now, we must continue our own epic. To save the galaxy, if we can.
All Juhani knows she's in a game, breaking the fourth wall. I was wondering if we could talk.
What is it you would like to speak to me about?
Tell me more about your past.
Well, I mentioned before that my parents had fled to Taris. Perhaps I can tell you about that.
There were no KotOR on Taris that I saw. I've already told you this.
No, there were not. Having fled the birth world of my species, my parents flew as far and wide as they could. And so I was raised alone, knowing of my birthplace only the few stories my parents could tell, and seeing no other member of my species at all.
Why did they flee?
It all comes back to wars and fighting. The curse of your race, it seems. In the early days of the Mandalorian War, there had been fighting closer to the Outer Rim worlds.
Near the world your species comes from?
KotOR was there, yes. My people had a great reputation as warriors, and that appealed to the Mandalore version of honor. They sought to test themselves against us, I think. Test themselves by bombing our world, slaughtering my people while they slept or while they ran.
How did it happen?
They swooped down from space across the world, firing at anything that moved. They used ships in space to destroy all orbital facilities and bombard the surface. We did resist, and in spite of their violent attack, we did stave them off for quite a while. But in the end, we were doomed.
Why did the Republic not help you?
We were not members of the Republic. KotOR was beyond the edge of the Republic, in the Outer Rim. And besides, they could not have known. Our interstellar communications were the first things the Mandalores hit. All other short-range communicators were jammed. We were on our own. We knew what was coming. We had fought the Mandalorians in the first war against Exar Kun and the Sith. We knew there would be no mercy for us. The most we could do was pack the few of our people who survived onto what few ships remained and send them off into space as fast as they could. Most did not make it.
But you survived.
My parents carried me as
Which
a
is
baby
obvious,
with them,
but
and
yeah,
lucky enough-
but you survived.
They fled as far as they were able, and eventually settled on Taris. They could stand running no further, I think. But Taris was a horrible choice. Dominated by humans, intolerant of other species, it made everyday life unnecessarily hard.
Taris is not a nice place to raise a child.
No, it is not. But they had little choice. Each of us dealt with it in our own way. My father turned to stimulants. He spent much of his time in local bars and dives. But we are warriors, It runs through our blood. And when he was on stims, he became foolish. He let his warrior nature get the best of him. So he would get intoxicated, and he would fight. And finally, one day, he would die.
Why would he died be an actual response? She just said he died. That's tragic.
I don't need your sarcasm or your pity.
What?
He
That's not
died
sarcasm!
another, killed by a man who provoked
That was
us with, like,
actual,
a killer
genuine
animal.
sorrow.
I'm sorry, I cannot talk about this.
Oh my
anymore
God.
right now.
Juhani, dude, that was me expressing actual sympathy. Okay? That wasn't sarcasm, it wasn't pity. Okay? That was actual, I feel sorry for you, and yes, that is kind of like pity, but it's not in a joking way. Jesus Christ. I was wondering if we could talk.
What is it you would like to speak to me about?
What happened after your father died?
After my father died, my mother was left to support me alone. A single non-human woman, living in one of the worst, most violent slums on Taris. It was not easy for her.
What happened?
When my father was killed, it seemed that something in her began to die as well. She worked. She worked as hard as she was able. But over time, she began to waste away. I later learned that she was unable to get enough money to feed both of us, and had to start borrowing from the exchange, a band of cutthroats and smugglers. But even that was not enough. She hid what she was doing from me. She gave most of her food to me so that I would be strong, but she herself was suffering deeply from it. In the end, she could go on no longer, and collapsed at the cantina where she worked one day.
Did she die? Why is that? Oh, yeah, why is that a response? Surely there was a doctor.
She never recovered. There was nothing really that I could do for her. She left me no money, and no doctor would see her without being paid first. I sat by her bed for days as she lay there dying. I never want that to happen to someone I care about ever again. But there was still the money she had borrowed. She had never paid it back and made no provisions for her death. You must understand. The exchange is brutal. They care nothing for the life of a sentient being. They are the major suppliers of slaves on Taris.
You were enslaved?
They thought it would be appropriate that, with my mother owing them money, the debt should be passed on to me. And with no way to pay, they took me by force. You have no idea what it is like to be bound like a beast and treated as such. It was the worst time of my life. They treated me like livestock. They were waiting for a buyer to give them some credit for me when the Jedi came to fight the Mandalorians.
How could the Jedi stand for that?
The Jedi could not abide by what they saw there, and drove the exchange from the face of the world, freeing those of us imprisoned there. But the Jedi soon left to fight their war, and I was left with a dream.
What did you do?
I swore that I would become a Jedi. As soon as I had enough money to do it, I bought passage on a freighter headed for Dantooine, and we both know what has happened since then.
You were very fortunate to be Force sensitive and became a Jedi, because if you hadn't have been Force sensitive, that would have been a huge waste of time on your part, and the Jedi would have been like, no, sorry, you can't join us because you have no Force powers whatsoever. Juhani.
I am grateful to you for having given me the opportunity to fulfill my dream, rather than become what I hated. Someday, I may make it up to you. But for now, let us keep on the task at hand.
Juhani is an interesting character. Whilst I've criticised her quite a lot, some of her later stories are actually quite tragic, and they do explain a lot about how her mind works and how she responds to things. In actuality, it's actually a positive that she didn't become as horrible as she could have easily become based on her experiences, because some of that stuff that she's told us is actually quite grim when you think about it. I have talked to Juhani enough to know that I can trigger her personal side quest now. However, I don't want to actually trigger it just yet, because Juhani's side quest is actually kind of buggy in the vanilla game, and I haven't downloaded the bug fixes to, fix the issues it causes. You can read all about it online, but we're not going to start Juhani's personal side quest for quite a while now. But on the plus side, we've had all the conversations we need to with her, and I'm saving a level up for later on because I don't want to trigger it straight away. So I'm going to talk to Jolie before we do anything else, just to see if he has anything else worth talking about.
Got something on your mind, do you?
And again, if I've already talked to him about this, I can just edit it out and then I can resume with whatever I need to. You mentioned something about your adventuring days.
Did I say that? Strange the tricks memory plays on you when you get older.
So you weren't an adventurer?
Didn't I say that my past was my affair? You don't see me poking and prodding you with questions, do you?
You're just not used to company. Stop being an old coot.
I might be, but a mouthy young thing like yourself shouldn't get to call me an old coot, damn it. And besides, you don't really want to hear about me. We're talking ancient history, probably before you were born. History bores kids. Proven fact.
Yeah, well, old people love to talk about history. Proven fact.
Oh, fine, fine. Have it your way. Just don't cry about it later. Yes, I was an adventurer. Happy now? I wasn't even done with my Jedi training back then. I had a full head of hair and an eagerness to see absolutely everything. Sound familiar? The Council was never happy with willful, brash Jolie Bindo, you see. Even less so when I began my smuggling career.
You were a smuggler?
Don't look at me like that, damn it. I wasn't always the wrinkled coot I am now, you know. I can still fight, too. So wipe off that smirk I see there. At the time, the Yukata system was interdicted by its own king. He preferred to keep his people starving and poor, all the better to oppress them. The Senate was trying to negotiate a peace, but they were getting nowhere as usual. I decided I wasn't going to wait. I found myself a ship and a partner, and we began smuggling food and supplies to the Yukata citizenry through the blockade.
Was it very dangerous?
Oh, it was. I was a half-decent pilot in those days, and with the Force guiding me, we made it through some tough spots nobody else would have.
You were a pilot too?
Pilot, smuggler, several other things too. Or did you suppose I was always a crotchety hermit?
Well, from this game's perspective, yes, you were always a crotchety hermit. Where did you get all the credits for all the supplies?
Well, we didn't buy all the equipment per se. Some were happy to donate goods. Some we just knew had more than they could use.
So you stole it?
Stole is such a harsh word. They would have donated those goods readily enough if they were compassionate. I considered it a tax on the greedy. We only got caught once. A lone Yukatish frigate shot us down and forced a crash landing. I thought the Force had abandoned me, as I remember.
Well, that was pretty stupid of you.
As I recall, I'm not the only person in this conversation who's been shot down out of the sky recently. Well, as it happens,
burn.
getting shot down turned out to be very fortunate. That day was the day
That was the day you what?
Well, that was the day I met my wife.
Bad memory, I take it?
No, that was a good memory. There are just much worse ones that followed. If it's all the same to you, I'd prefer to stop talking now. My mouth is starting to draw flies.
Okay, so we found out Juhani was a smuggler, a pilot, and also had a wife. Interesting stuff. I don't know if I can trigger anything else for him, unless if I level up. Let's find out.
Got something on your mind, do you?
I can't remember if I've asked him about Sunri's verdict, so I'm going to do that whilst I'm here. So what do you think of Sunri's verdict?
Innocent. I don't know what to make of it, to tell the truth. Do you think justice has been done?
No, not really.
But that has little to do with the law, doesn't it? A sad state of affairs, that. Too bad, really. Sunri was a good man once. I don't want to talk about this anymore. My jaw aches.
There is one other thing I do want to talk about with Juhani, because I think she actually has some unique dialogue when you ask her about what she knows about Manan, so let's do that.
How may I be of assistance to you, Padawan?
What do you know about this world?
Manan is a water-rich world, as you may have been able to tell. With the exception of this Otto city, there is no land on the world protruding above sea level. The dominant indigenous race of the world are the Selkath, a semi-aquatic bipedal species. They are known to be very dreary, and strong proponents of the power of law above all else. The extremist policies of the Sith seem to appeal to them. They have declared themselves neutral in this conflict between the Republic and the Sith.
Neutral? Can they not see the Sith are evil?
The Selkath seek to preserve their independence by maintaining a stranglehold on the one unique resource of their world, the vulnerary liquid KotOR, the most powerful curative in the galaxy. As the only world in the galaxy that produces KotOR, they have positioned themselves between the Sith and the Republic, supplying both sides with the medicine equally. They hope in this way to make themselves too valuable to both to be conquered. As a last resort, they have made it clear to both sides that any attempt to attack their world will force them to destroy the KotOR supply entirely. Any violation by either the Republic or the Sith of their sacrosanct laws incurs severe KotOR export restrictions on the violating government. Both the Republic and the Sith try to keep the Selkath happy and give them no cause to complain. But I wonder how the Sith can take this affront to their power in stride. Many people speak highly of the integrity of the Selkath people, but from what little I have seen of them, they are disgusting little fish people. But I suppose I just have too high standards. How may I be of assistance to you, Padawan?
I think you're correct on that, Juhani. I think, the Selkath are disgusting little fish people, even though that does sound a little bit racist now I say it out loud. Nothing for now, perhaps later.
Of course.
The last thing I want to do before I finish off is talk to Bastila about our little romance.
How can I help?
I want to talk to you about what happened between us.
We've already been over this. It was a moment of weakness, a stumble brought on by unbridled passions. But my emotions are firmly in check once more. We need to stay focused on stopping Darth Malak, and I want the others to stay focused as well. I don't want them to get suspicious and start gossiping about our little encounter. So until our mission is over, we need to act with discretion. We shouldn't speak of this anymore. Not until Malak is defeated.
I'm not convinced.
How can I help?
And then you can ask her again. Never mind.
Then I suggest we move on.
You don't want the crew to start gossiping. Karth is right over there, and then the rest of the Ebonhawk crew probably could have walked in on us during that hour we made out, Bastila. Come on. They could have easily walked in at any time. So that conversation is not going to happen officially, because if you trigger that part of the conversation, it seems to end all of the romance between your character and Bastila, and it also makes it as if the romance never happened. So we're not going to use that in our playthrough, but I still wanted to show it off anyway. And I'm going to leave it here for now. It's been quite a talkative episode. I apologise there's not been any action, but I had to resolve most of Juhani's conversations. I had to talk to Jolie a little bit, and I had to talk to Bastila off camera about, what she thinks. So next time we're going to make a move to we're either going to go straight to Korriban or we're going to go to Yavin on the way. So we'll leave it there for now. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.